Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I bring you true horror stories from all over the world. I'm your host and I hope you have a great night tonight. Tonight we will be reading from our community tab, so let us get right into it with story number 1, which is titled Loud Noises in the Attic. I was home alone on a Saturday night about 12 years ago. I lived in an old farmhouse with my husband at the time in a small village. Our home was probably over 100 years old. The house had a full basement and an attic. We didn't spend much time in the attic. In fact, I only went up there maybe 4 times that year. The first weird thing happened when I went up there to clean. It was probably early spring or late winter because it was still cold and raining outside. As I'm cleaning out some stuff, I heard what sounded like hail for about 5 minutes, followed by heavy footsteps above me. I stopped and listened. Then I started to hear footsteps near where I was. At first I thought maybe my husband was up there, but then I realized it couldn't be him. He was at his parents' house helping them after my father-in-law had a heart attack. It wasn't long after that, I heard a loud bang followed by more footsteps. That's when I started to panic. I ran out of the attic and slammed the door, leaned against it and started to shake and cry. I was trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but after about 10 minutes I got up, walked back into the attic to find whatever made the noise. Of course, I found nothing, but as I came down the stairs, I noticed for the first time that the rain had stopped. And when I looked up, I saw that the clouds had parted, and there was a bright spotlight of moonlight shining directly through the attic window onto the floor where the footsteps had been. Since then, every time I've heard rain followed by loud footsteps in the attic, I think someone's up there walking around. And sometimes I even swear I can hear the bang. Now, the noise has never actually scared me. The first time it did, though. Alright, so now we're moving on to our second story, which is titled A Very Realistic Dream. This happened a couple of years ago. I was 8 months pregnant and getting contractions about every 40 minutes. My partner and I live on a farm, so we decided to drive into town to stay at a hotel until the baby was born. On the way there, we stopped at a grocery store to pick up some food. We were heading out to the car when we heard thunder and the sky got really dark. We decided to go inside and get some ice cream instead of the frozen pizzas we'd planned on. When we got back to the room, we watched TV and ate ice cream until about 1 a.m. when my water broke. I called the hospital and they said everything looked good and to come on in. We packed our bags and headed to the hospital. When we got there, I was only 3 centimeters dilated. They admitted us and put us in a room. About an hour later, I was having regular contractions. I was excited because it was finally happening. At around 5 a.m., I woke up from a dream. In this dream, I was back in the hotel room watching TV with my partner. Suddenly, my water broke, and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is so weird. Why am I dreaming about being in labor?" I told my partner in the dream, "We have to go to the hospital." He didn't say anything, but he got up and started gathering my things. We left the hotel and drove to the hospital together. At some point during the dream, I became lucid and realized that I was actually giving birth in the hospital bed. I opened my eyes and everything seemed normal. Then I realized that I was still in the hospital bed, but my partner was nowhere to be seen. My nurse, Mary, was standing over me with a puzzled expression on her face. She said, "Where were you? Your partner was here a minute ago and then he just vanished." I told her about my dream and she said, "That's weird. I thought you were dreaming because you kept talking." I asked if she had called my partner and she said, "Yes, but he isn't answering his phone." So we tried calling him again. His phone went straight to voicemail. My partner was an on-call paramedic, and it was his night to respond to emergencies. The other paramedics were also trying his phone and none of them were getting through. We kept trying his phone until around noon when he finally answered. I immediately asked him why he didn't answer his phone last night, and he replied, "I didn't have my phone. I was out on a call all night, and I must have forgotten it at the station." It turns out he had responded to a call in the middle of the night about a car accident in a nearby town. The car accident was a fake, and the real emergency call was coming from someone who needed medical attention. But that person was gone by the time they arrived. My partner was reprimanded for not answering his phone, and he received a written warning. I'm curious, do you think my partner was there in spirit, or do you think it was just a weird coincidence? And now we're on to our third story, which is titled, My Encounter in the Rain. This happened to me a few years ago. I was walking home from a friend's house in the pouring rain. I lived about 10 minutes away, and the road was dark because it was night. There weren't many streetlights. All of a sudden, I saw headlights behind me, and I pulled off to the side of the road to let the car pass. I was almost hit by a huge puddle of water. The car splashed on me. I was soaked and shivering. As I continued to walk home, I saw another car coming. This time it was an old pickup truck. I stepped off the road and the truck stopped. A man rolled down the window and yelled, "Get in! You can ride with me!" Being a teenager, I didn't want to get in a random guy's car. I politely declined and continued to walk. The truck started to drive off, but then it turned around and started driving toward me. I started to run, but it turned around again and kept going. About 2 minutes later, I heard tires screeching, and I turned around to see the truck at the end of the road. It had turned around again and was now heading toward me. I started running and hid behind a tree. The truck drove past me, and I could see the driver's face. It was the same guy from earlier. He stopped about 2 houses down and walked back to where I was hiding. I started screaming and making tons of noise. He said, "Don't scream. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." I started to calm down a bit. He introduced himself and said he lived at the end of the road. He asked if I wanted to come to his house to use the phone or wait for a ride. I agreed and started walking toward his house. As we were walking, he was asking me questions and I was answering. But the whole time I was terrified. When we got to his front porch, I asked to use the bathroom. While I was in there, he started talking. He was talking about how he knew a shortcut home and wanted to show me. He said, "No one believes me when I tell them, but you can trust me." I told him I would take the long way around, and he insisted that I take the shortcut. I agreed, and we headed out the front door. When we got to the road, I started to run. He started running after me, and I could hear him yelling, "Wait, I just wanted to show you the shortcut." I didn't stop running until I reached my house, and that's the end of this episode. If you want to hear more scary stories, hit the subscribe button. And if you're new here, join the family. I'll see you next time.